Now, there's this great passage in the Bible that I always go to, and I never realized how much it spoke about compassion until prepping this sermon. It's the story of the Good Samaritan. For those of you who know it, I already know that you kind of get where I'm going with this. Because at that time, there was this distinction where Samaritan people and people that consider themselves the direct descendants of Abraham, right? The country, the nation of Israel, they didn't jive. They didn't go together. They weren't cool, right? They would think of each other as the redheaded stepchild. Specifically, the Jews towards the Samaritans. So just by hearing the start of this story, named the Good Samaritan, it confuses you, because how could a Samaritan be good? Jesus is speaking to people of the Jewish nation and saying the Good Samaritan, and their minds must be like, what is good about them? They reject the covenant. They're not one of us. They have no share in the inheritance of Abraham. What's good about them? So this lawyer is asking Jesus, what do I have to do to inherit eternal life? Jesus asks him first, well, what does the law say? And he wisely answers to Jesus and says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. And those two commandments, known as the two greatest commandments, they complement the 10 commandments very well. Because the first 4 commandments of the 10 commandments, they outline how you relate with God. Thou shalt not have another God before him, not hold his name to emptiness, not have idols. Those commandments, they speak to how we relate to God. But then the next 6, right? Those speak to how we relate to people. Don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, don't covet, don't commit adultery. All of those, they speak to how we relate to people. So he's right. Love God and love people. But then he goes on to ask, but who is my neighbor? And this is where Jesus comes in with the story. So if we could start Luke 10, starting at verse 30, it says, Jesus replied, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down the road, and when he saw him, the man that was beaten and left, he passed by on the other side. Pause there really quick. I'm not the only one guilty. But if I am, please, I'll take the blame for us all. How many of us have seen a homeless person and tried to walk either on the outside of the street or cross the street? How many of us have seen a member from church that they don't like that much in public? I see a raised hand. I thank you for being honest with me. Has seen a member of church that they're like, not even on my best day do I have the patience for you. And you turn around and walk the other way. We're talking about a priest here. A priest that's supposed to be following these 2 greatest commandments. Love God and love people. He doesn't even stop, it says. He walks on the other side. So likewise, a Levite, those responsible for worship, exalting God. Just to use them, let's say we had a Minister Chantel walk by, came to the place and saw, and also passed by. So now we have Pastor Caleb passing by. We have Minister Chantel passing by. Trust me, they would never pass by. They are good people. But they're passing by. Verse 33 says, but a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had what? Compassion. Compassion. Verse 34 says, he went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he set him on his animal and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And the next day he took out 2 denarii and gave to the innkeeper, saying, take care of him, and whatever more you spend, I will pay you when I come back. Jesus asks, which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? The lawyer had no choice. He said, the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus said to him, you go and do likewise. Do the same. do as he would do. So how do we practically do this? How do we practically do this? What does the Good Samaritan show us in terms of walking with compassion? Well, the first thing is compassion isn't always on your schedule. Compassion isn't always on your schedule. This is the hardest one for me because I get busy doing a lot. There are two states of Pastor Ryan in this church. I am either moving a lot and doing a lot, or you don't see me because I'm also doing a lot. There's no in between, and it's not very healthy. Don't do that. I tell the young people all the time, if you can take anything from me, don't be this busy. Doing is good, but sometimes doing too much causes you to miss out on what God really wants you to do. So my question is, can God interrupt you? When it's not on your schedule, can he disrupt you? When you get home and you think it's time to relax, can somebody call you for a 2-hour conversation? When your child comes home and all you want them to do is clean, but they have something heavy and all they're showing you is attitude, do you have the patience to slow down and say, let me see what's really wrong. Let's talk. Can God interrupt your schedule? Because when you slow down is when you start to notice people. I'll give the priest the benefit of the doubt. Maybe someone was dying. Maybe it was a training seminar on how do you help someone on the side of the road. So I can't help him right now because I don't know how to help someone on the side. So let me go get trained. I got you when I come back. Benefit of the doubt. But let's say he slowed down and he took stock and saw the man's condition. Saw he wasn't just sleeping. He wasn't drunk. He was beaten, battered, torn. Would he have possibly had more compassion? Last Monday at Man Church, one of the young people came up to me and was like, how are you doing? And I said, I'm good. And they were like, yeah, I barely feel like I see you anymore. We don't talk. And I was like, ooh, dang. I was like, that means I'm too busy. And then they said, but you're doing a lot. And I was like, just because I'm doing a lot doesn't mean I'm doing good. And I said, if I can't, for you, who I am the pastor of, I'm youth pastor, I should be able to have time for you. You shouldn't feel like I'm that far out of reach. If I don't have time for you, maybe I need to pull back. Maybe I need to do one less thing. And let God take care of that thing because I can't do everything. Maybe what I'm doing is just a little bit too much. I should have at least 2 minutes to be able to check up on you. At least 2 minutes to have the awareness of mind to, if I don't hear from you, call you, text you during the week. We shouldn't be having to say, hey, I feel like I barely hear from you anymore. Are we too busy to be compassionate? Because I would say if we are, then maybe we're busy doing the wrong thing. And that's my conviction. I find myself being too busy to do the right thing. So if you saw me today, I gave myself a pat on the back. I popped in a room, I came out. 15 seconds, I was gone. I gave people hugs. I stopped and said hello to as many people as I could, stopped for conversation. I tried to touch nothing back there because I realized that I had to slow myself down. It's not everything that needs to be done now. There will be a time and a place for it. But I need to express compassion in a way I know how. And for me, that's loving on people. Taking a moment to say hi. At least flash you a smile. It doesn't take much sometimes. And I think I have a pretty good smile, right? I think so. At least that's what people tell me. At least let's stop to do that, to show that. And maybe when I do that, maybe I'll have an idea from God. Hey, this person needs a little bit more than a smile. Maybe they need a word. And maybe they don't need a word. Maybe they just need me to sit with them for a moment. Maybe they need just for me to say one thing. Maybe they need for me to relate to their pain. Maybe they need to see that I hurt too, and I can relate. So, compassion, it's not always on your schedule.